Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. I'm Representative Roberts, and I first want to introduce, we're here to talk about some legislation that pertains to fracking, and we have a number of bills in our package. And the sponsors of those bills are Representative Plawecki, Representative Gregg, Representative Chang will be joining us, Representative Hovey-Wright, Representative Irwin, and Representative Cochran. And I also just want to recognize Representative Moss and Representative Wittenberg joining us in support today of, in our package of bills. And also joining us, we have Nick Clark, who is the Michigan Director of Clean Water Action, and Mike Berkowitz, the Legislative and Political Director for Sierra Club Michigan Chapter. So thank you both for joining us here today. So as we approach Valentine's Day, a day of love, we thought about what, as a state, we love. And immediately the first thing that came to our mind is our water. Michigan loves clean water, and Michigan needs clean water. And when you love something, you need to take care of it. But we're not doing what is necessary to protect it. Our laws for oil and gas drilling were written before the introduction of high pressure, high volume fracking operations that we know have caused some problems in other states. And we simply need to update our fracking regulations here in Michigan. And that's why we're here today, to propose state-of-the-art regulations to protect our Michigan water that we all love. You see, Michigan got into this relationship with fracking in a kind of haphazard way. Oil and gas prices were soaring, and Michigan gave access to our buried treasure without updating our protections for clean water. But fracking hasn't been entirely truthful with us. It has become needy, sucking up a lot of resources, and has taken too much control. We think it is time to take a break, reevaluate our relationship, and start fresh with some new rules. First, we want the water assessment tool to be updated to take cumulative water withdrawal impacts into consideration. Assess those impacts while looking at all of our rivers, streams, ponds, lakes, and wetlands impacted by the withdrawals used by those nearby fracking operations. We want oil and gas companies to be required by law to use the water withdrawal assessment tool. Second, we want full disclosure of all the chemicals used in the fracking process. No trade secrets, because secrets aren't good in any relationship. Third, we want the public to participate or be able to participate in the process and give local communities some say in the fracking operations in their local area. And fourth, we want rules to protect the public and to give them a voice in the process. Most importantly, we are calling on a moratorium for any new fracking permits until these state-of-the-art regulations are put in place to protect our drinking water, our Great Lakes, and the public. And to talk more about our change in our relationship status is Representative Plawecki.
Tough to follow. Thank you, Representative Roberts. Fracking is happening here in Michigan, and we need to make sure it's properly regulated to protect our water and the public's health. Fracking involves drilling thousands of feet below the ground and pumping large amounts of chemically treated water with sand into the ground to release natural gas deposits that are inaccessible by other methods. Vertical fracking is not new to Michigan. We've been fracking for oil and gas since 1952. However, horizontal high-volume fracking wells have taken this industry to a whole new level. Instead of just drilling down 3,000 feet below the surface, these operations turn the drill head 90 degrees and then begin drilling horizontally as far as 10,000 feet into the bedrock. Instead of using thousands of gallons of fresh water, we are now looking at hundreds of millions of gallons being pumped into fracking wells. This also means more chemicals and higher pressures, increasing the chance of contamination of our water. It's imperative that these chemicals do not contaminate our groundwater or our soil. According to the EPA, 700 different chemicals have been used during this fracking process. These chemicals could pollute our air, our soil, and our drinking water. We worry that many of these chemicals, like arsenic, cadmium, and numerous other chemicals, could lead to a rise in health and environmental problems. We need to make sure Michiganders and our water are safe. That is why we want drilling companies to fully disclose the chemicals they use in their fracking operations. Currently, oil and gas companies are exempt from state law in regards to reporting how much fresh water they use. According to the DEQ, there are 38 active permits and 1 pending permit for fracking operations. Since 2008, 63 wells have been permitted in almost 116 million gallons, and I'm going to say that again, 116 million gallons of our fresh water has been used for free by the oil and gas industry. Once this water is combined with a fracking chemical cocktail, that water cannot be reused or returned. It is no longer available, and it's hauled away and injected into deep injection wells. Given our Great Lakes heritage, we need to use water responsibly. We know what happens when we aren't careful about something as important as our water. We need to make sure there will be enough water in our lakes and streams to not only provide Michiganders with safe drinking water, but also to allow fish to thrive, farmers to irrigate their crops, and tourists to enjoy the beautiful streams and rivers that bring anglers and tourism dollars to Michigan. I would now like to introduce Representative Gregg to talk more about why this legislation is needed.
Thank you, Representative Plawecki. In addition to making sure we know what chemicals are being used and ensuring we are looking at the cumulative impacts of fracking on all of Michigan's water, we want to make sure we're protecting the public and giving them a voice in the fracking process. If chemicals associated with fracking or a hydraulic fracturing fluid tracer are found in nearby groundwater, we want to make sure the fracking operation is held accountable. If drilling companies pollute our water, we need to hold them accountable. We want to ensure that public participation is required in the permitting process. The local unit of government or any interested party should be able to request a public hearing, period. We want our counties and townships who are specifically prohibited from regulating wells to be able to have some say in the operation, location, and abandonment of wells. We want to protect families in their homes, children in our schools and daycare centers, and patients and workers in our hospitals by changing current setbacks to 5,000 feet to ensure the public is safe from any potential dangers associated with a fracking well. We also want to codify in law that a chemical cocktail of water can't be used on dirt roads as a dust suppression tool. Our bills take a common sense approach to fracking regulations and will do a lot to improve our relationship with the fracking industry. We understand that the natural gas industry is an important segment of the economy, but agriculture and tourism are also important, and fracking has the potential to negatively impact those vital drivers of our state's economy. This is a growing concern. 21 different communities around our state and local units of government are weighing in on this issue. We are taking a stand by creating a strong set of rules to keep the public and our water safe. We have concerns about what fracking does to our air, land, and water. And here to talk specifically about those concerns is Nick Clark, the Michigan Director of Clean Water Action.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us here today. My name's Nick Clark. I'm the Michigan Director of Clean Water Action, and I'm representing over 250,000 members of Clean Water Action who I love our metaphor that we're using today. We're breaking up the fracking, so to speak, because fracking is not getting the message, okay? We have been doing this. My first project when I got to Clean Water Action in 2011 was partnering with many of the leaders here on the stage to introduce a legislative package to do just what we want to do today in this legislative session. And yet we have failed to see any leadership across the aisle to hold even a single hearing or take these bills seriously. And we need action on this legislation now. This is not a new problem. This is something that we've studied very hard and worked in concert with our colleagues at the Sierra Club to come up with what I think is the most forward-thinking regulatory regime regarding fracking in the United States. And it deserves that level of critique, and it deserves that level of status in the legislature and attention. The issue is personal to me. I grew up in northern Michigan, and I can tell you exactly where the state's two largest fracking wells are, Excelsior North and South. They're, if you head on 72 west towards Traverse City, when you get up north, you're going to turn on to Sunset Trail. It's a little two-track. You're going to drive right past it. But you get on Sunset Trail, and you'll find some of the most pristine hunting land in the entire state of Michigan. It really is a great area. My family's been going there for decades and enjoying that for our deer camp each and every year. Also, you'll find the Manistee River runs through this, one of Michigan's largest and most pristine rivers. Excelsior North, the horizontal lake, so that's the thing about fracking, is that not only does it go down so deep, but also pivots and runs horizontally. So we actually have a hole that's drilled underneath of the north leg of the Manistee River. You know, that's where this is happening. It's right in the heartland of our most precious natural resources. When fracking was first introduced in the state, we were told it would only use 5 million gallons of water, right? Now what we found is that's just simply not true. It uses upwards of 20 million gallons of water per fracked well in the state, and that's unacceptable. So it's time for us to take action on this legislation, and I look forward to hearing how we're going to do that. And so with that, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Representative Irwin. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And just to wrap up, I want to thank all my colleagues for doing a great job covering the package. What we're trying to say here is that here in Michigan, we have a new technique for fracking. It's high capacity, it's high pressure, it's high volume. It's a new sort of oil and gas extraction. And we need new regulations. We need updated, state-of-the-art regulations to protect our vital natural resources, particularly clean water, particularly to make sure that disclosure of chemicals is made available to the public. The public has a right to know what chemicals are being injected underground in the state of Michigan, and they should know that before the permit is granted. The public also has reasonable concerns about water quantity. You heard what Nick Clark from Clean Water Action said about the incredible volumes of water that are used in these fracking operations, water that is lost to the hydrologic system forever. We've also got concerns about disposal. And if anyone has read the news this morning, you know that President Obama has issued an executive order focusing on the earthquakes that have been caused by the fracking industry, particularly in western states like Oklahoma, where there's been a tremendous spike in earthquakes due to the disposal of the fracking fluid. So we've joined together to propose a comprehensive set of state-of-the-art regulations to deal with chemical disclosure, to deal with water quality, water quantity, and the disposal of the fracking chemicals. And we are seeking bipartisan support for regulations to protect clean water in Michigan. So thank you for coming. If there are any questions.
Well, just real quickly, I just wanted to point out we do have a website, www.protectmiwaters.com.
Yeah, thank you.
And we just want to encourage the public to go to this website. We have a petition that individuals can sign in support of our legislation. The more people who sign that petition, we believe the more power we have that we can take to some of the other leaders in the legislature to really validate the public's concern over this issue and the need to have dialogue and take action.